It's another game week and another frustrating result for Manchester United fans. Before I continue, I apologise if my voice sounds like I'm a 50-year-old man who's been smoking his whole life. I've got the flu, I'm ill, while I'm wearing a hat indoors, I'm cold. I apologise, let's get on with it, yeah. I think United fans will come away from the game feeling like this was an opportunity lost. The opportunity lost to go level on points with Chelsea and Liverpool in the fight for 4th place. The opportunity lost to get a win over Aston Villa, who are in great form and even challenging for the title right now. The opportunity lost to win a game that, for the most part, I believe Manchester United were the better team. And I do think just from going on the eye test, I haven't looked at any statistics or anything, but just from the eye test, just from watching the game, I do believe Man United were the better team. Maybe just edging it. I feel like they went to Villa Park and controlled the game and for the most part created the better chances. I mean, for example, for sure, Cunha should have scored that header. And on another day, those long-range shots, those long-range chances that he had, one of them probably would have gone in. And I know that part of the Man United fan base, we all know that part, will be calling for Amorim's head. I know some content creators on YouTube will be at their negative best, as unfortunately negativity just sells. And being negative towards Manchester United and Ruben Amorim in particular is hugely popular right now. But I do think if you look at the performance neutrally, without any bias, without an agenda, the agenda being, for example, Amorim in or Amorim out, I think you would conclude that the performance was good. And Amorim made some really good tactical adjustments that caused Aston Villa a lot of problems. And let's get more into that. The biggest tactical adjustment that I noticed from Manchester United against Aston Villa was how high the line of engagement was. And in this case, by high line of engagement, what I mean is the amount of Manchester United players that went to challenge Aston Villa when Aston Villa had the ball in their own half. Take a look at this screenshot, which shows exactly what I mean. Here you can see the front three of Sesko, Cunha and Mount high up the pitch as you would expect. Bruno, who is a central midfielder by default in this formation, is also joining the front three higher up the pitch, further increasing the number of players on the high line. You'll then notice the starting position for the wing backs is much higher than usual, with Dalot and Dorgo really emphasising the high line of engagement. Now I'm going to use a tactics board to demonstrate what this can do in theory. Manchester United now have 6 players in Aston Villa's third, and this pins them down and makes it extremely difficult for Aston Villa to pass the ball out the back. And you can see there is a bit of a gap between the front 6 to Ugarte and the defensive line for Manchester United. And at this point, this is where some of the United fans will do the classic, "There's no midfield," or "the midfield gets overrun too easily," because they see huge gaps in the midfield. But this is exactly by design. Villa can't even fill these gaps, because if they bring some players out of defence and into midfield, they risk getting overloaded in the final third in their own half, which increases the risk of the ball being turned over and Manchester United getting the ball at a very good position in the pitch. And then if they bring the attackers down into the space, it causes them to get boxed in inside their own half, because they no longer have any outlets up top. And what they would end up doing is pumping the ball long to no one, because there's no one up there, because everyone's been put back into the midfield. Or even worse, they turn the ball over in their own half trying to play the ball out. And we saw Manchester United implement this a number of times in this game. In fact, the first Cunha chance was a direct result of the high line of engagement, because it forced the Villa defence to go long, and then the United defence easily wins the header. Due to the number of players higher up the pitch for Manchester United, this allows them to have more players in good positions to win the second ball, which is exactly what happens in this sequence, and then Cunha has the shot on goal, which was a really good opportunity. Now, there are of course some weaknesses to this tactic, and Villa did demonstrate them during the game. Firstly, if a team is able to pass through the high line of engagement, this does leave a lot of space in the midfield to be exploited. We can see this happening here as Villa are finally able to pass the ball out the back and surge up the field quickly due to the United's lack of numbers in midfield. The second weakness comes if a team is able to win the long ball forward. In this case, Villa were pinned back and were forced to go long, just as Man United wanted. Unfortunately, there are no guarantees in football, and even if you play the perfect tactic, it sometimes doesn't go the way that you want. Here, Villa win the long ball and keep possession of the ball, which again exploits the space in the middle of the park for Manchester United. However, for the most part, this tactic was very successful for Manchester United in this game. It is quite high risk, but also very high reward, which is why, contrary to a lot of people's opinions, Amorim's tactics are actually very entertaining. In a way, Cunha's goal is the perfect example of the high rewards on offer with this tactic, as his goal comes from a direct result of Manchester United's high line of engagement. Here, Dorgo wins the ball back, Cunha receives the ball and finishes nicely. Just on a quick note, a high line of engagement doesn't necessarily mean you're pressing hard, because Manchester United didn't exactly press a lot in this game. They just positioned themselves very nicely, very correctly, in order to pin the Aston Villa defence back, prevent them from playing the ball out the back and forcing them to go long. It's a great tactic, executed really well. Unfortunately though, these tactics weren't enough to win Manchester United the game in the end, even though I do believe they really should have. And on another day they could have, or would have. Two outstanding strikes from Morgan Rogers in the end sealed the win for Aston Villa, which in itself is a huge kick in the bollocks for Manchester United fans. Because Man United on this occasion were undone by individual brilliance. And to be honest, I can't help but feel Euro should have done better for both goals. Like I said, both goals were outstanding pieces of play from Rogers. But on both occasions, Euro just made it too easy for him to come inside on his right foot and get the shot away. Now obviously not taking anything away from Rogers himself, they were obviously two outstanding goals. I do feel, obviously, Euro should have done better. And without these two goals, it's a Manchester United win. So yeah, it's another week of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Another hugely frustrating week for Manchester United fans, for sure. But overall, it was a very good performance against a team that has won, what is it, 10 games in a row now? A hugely informed team. They're challenging for the title. Like, yeah, the results aren't perfect, but let's just look at the performances. Look at the improvements. Look at the progression that Amorim is having at Manchester United. Look at how the tactics are improving. Look at how the tactics are advancing. Look at how he's getting things right for individual games against individual teams and individual performances. Like, it's so clear to see Manchester United are onto something good right now. And there's just some group of fans that are so toxic, they don't want to see 3-4-3, like, get over it. They want to see Amorim out because Man United aren't challenging for the league. If you think Manchester United should be challenging for the league, you're deluded. Currently, right now, Manchester United are challenging for a Champions League spot. If I asked you at the beginning of the season, would you be happy if Manchester United were up there challenging for 4th place? You would have bitten my hand off. So let's just be realistic for a second. Let's just appreciate what we've got. Anyway, I regress. In other news, this was a very unfamiliar sight and very worrying as well. It's obviously Bruno Fernandes coming off injured. Something you obviously never really see, and honestly, as soon as I saw him struggling in the end of the first half, I had a feeling of dread just come over me because he's such an integral part of this system and this Manchester United team. He just makes the whole team tick, and United fans can just pray that it's not a long layoff for him. Now, to be fair, Martinez came on in the CM role and actually did really well. However, he wasn't exactly a direct replacement for Bruno. He played in the deeper role where you would normally see Casemiro or obviously Ugarte. And speaking of Ugarte, when Martinez replaced Bruno and Ugarte went further up the field, he basically became completely anonymous in the game. Jack Fletcher got some minutes and actually looks pretty tidy, but you can see the huge drop-off from Bruno to anyone else that Manchester United have in that position. Kobbie Mainoo is obviously the most obvious replacement, but he had this injury, and the injury might keep him out for another game, another couple of weeks, who knows. Maybe this is controversial, but maybe he should just accept he's not first choice and that he should just fight for his place in the team. It's really funny and really ironic that his brother had the free Kobbie Mainoo shirt last game, when in this game he would have just gone straight into the team because of Bruno's injury. But obviously because of Mainoo's now new injury, he didn't get the opportunity to do that. Just stop being a knob. Anyway, that's all speculation. We'll see what happens with that in the future. But what we do know is this Manchester United team without Bruno is a worrying prospect. So let's hope Mainoo's injury is actually a small injury and he's not being punished for his brother being a knob, or even maybe he's being a knob behind the scenes. No one really knows. So many problems with players and their brothers. What's up with that? But anyway, overall, I still come away from this game pretty optimistic and happy with the performance. Like I said, Villa are a hugely informed team and they're challenging for first place. The fact that United went to their ground, went to Villa Park, pretty much outplayed them, should have got 3 points, or at worst 1 point, is hugely encouraging. But what do you think? Do you see the positives, or are you just a miserable bastard that sees the negativity in everything? Were Amorim's tactics good, or should he have done something different? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing, as it would really help the channel. Cheers!